What is up, everybody, and welcome to the Talk Nerdy With Me podcast, episode 10. I'm your host, Nicholas Merrington, and I'm so excited because we got our first ever guest, Chris Gibbs. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, thanks yourself, Nick. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. I'm so excited to have you here. And Chris, we have you on for a really cool topic that you wrote in with. And we'll get to that later. And just for you listeners, what the topic is about, it's Chris wrote in with what if Sony and Apple teamed up, and we're going to be diving into a discussion around that topic a little later in the show.
Yeah, we'll get into it a little bit later.
We'll definitely get into
pretty
it.
Good one.
But if you didn't know, this is the Talk Nerdy With Me podcast, the podcast that revolves around video games. And if you want to be a part of the show, remember you can write in with a question, an answer, or a topic that we can discuss on the show to the email address talknerdywithme21@gmail.com, and go follow us on Instagram at talknerdywithmepodcast. Before we get into the main topic, Chris, this is your first episode, obviously, and I want the audience just to get to know you better, and maybe actually for myself as well. I don't feel like I've been able to ask you a lot of video game related questions because we haven't seen each other too much in the last few years. But I'm just gonna throw it straight in. Chris, what is your favorite game of all time?
Okay, that's a very good question. I think the last time we actually had a video game chat was probably like back in high school. So I would have said BioShock Infinite at the time because I remember playing that on Xbox 360. That was my favorite game of all time back in like, I don't know, 2013.
Yeah.
But after I got a PS4 and the first game I got was The Witcher 3, and that is like now my favorite game of all time, The Witcher 3. I played it on PS4 first, and then I went and played it on PC as well. I turned all the graphics up and stuff. It's the best game of all time.
I actually remember being in English, and we would talk about. I think I spoke to you about The Witcher. I remember you said you played it on the hardest difficulty, didn't you?
I think I said I tried playing on the hardest difficulty on PS4, but I wasn't very familiar with like the game mechanics and stuff. So then I played it on the second like hardest, like the one just before the hardest. But then when I went and played it on PC, then I played the whole thing on the hardest, and I changed the way I played the whole like everything. It was good time. I did everything. I completely finished every question mark on the game.
Jeez,
I went through the whole map. Everything because I was just like,
if only you're on PlayStation, you would have probably had the platinum trophy. But on PC, you PC guys, you don't get any kinds of trophies or achievements.
Maybe.
You just play the game, and then you got to entertain yourself with the thought that you 100%ed it. You can't do anything with it.
I mean, that's trophies aren't everything, but they are cool. I was never a trophy person on console when I was there, so for me it wasn't really that big.
Yeah.
But I do remember there's some crazy hard trophies. Like, even if I did the game completely maxed out, I don't think I would have platinumed it. I think there's some weird ones, like you have to do like kill an enemy with a crossbow from like far, or I don't know how, like lots of stuff,
Yeah.
That's not like, you don't just get it by playing it normally. You have to like go out of your way. I think that's the main thing that people like about trophies.
Yeah. Well, that is a cracker of a game to have as your favorite game of all time. So yeah, let's go to the next question. What game have you put the most time into?
Okay, so before I played The Witcher, I was on console. I think the most time I've spent was on like Black Ops 2 on Xbox 360. The multiplayer. I looked at the stats and I had like overall time of like 31 days played on that game. Like crazy. I don't think I've played that much Rainbow Six Siege. I don't think I've played that much Witcher. I don't think I've played that much anything.
Really?
That's a lot, yeah.
That's a lot of
31 days played.
Jeez.
Like when you think of Witcher, they talk about the number of hours you get or whatever, but like days.
Yeah, I mean that's 24 times 31. That's a lot of maths. Anyway, and I know you're on PC now, but before PC, what consoles have you had in your life, and what's been your favorite console?
The 360. I had a PS2 when that was my first console that I got. We used to have I don't know if it was an official Sega one. I feel like it might have been a sketchy, you blow it in and then you stick the cartridge games on those, and then Then we got a PS2, and I remember playing Shrek, like that top-down Shrek game.
Oh yes, Shrek's
And then
Shrek 2,
yeah,
or you mean Shrek Super
yeah,
Slam,
yeah.
the brawler.
I don't know, no. I think it was Shrek 2. I think it was Shrek 2.
Yes, and you could switch between the characters and stuff.
Yes,
Oh,
yes, that
I
one, that
remember
one.
that.
Yeah, I remember that one. That was the first game I played on PS2. And Ratchet and Clank was also a big one. Then I got a 360 because I don't know why I got a 360. I think I didn't like the feel of the PlayStation 3 controller. Like it was too like it hurt my hand when I was playing with it. And I played a 360 controller and I liked the 360 controller, so I got an Xbox. And then the PlayStation 4 came out and I got that instead of the Xbox One because again the controller was better, so I got that. And also the exclusives are better. And
Mm,
then I moved from PS4 to PC now. So I don't know.
nice. And you're not regretting moving to PC. Do you prefer it for the graphics or the frame
Yeah,
rate?
for me it's just cheaper. Like you don't have to buy a subscription to play games. Like you
That's true.
can buy like subscriptions for games that like allow you to get like a whole bunch of games like Origin or Microsoft Game Pass or Ubisoft or whatever. Like there's
Yeah,
if a lot everyone's got passes now.
yeah.
You don't have to have it just for online. So I don't have to pay that. And sometimes you get cool games on Steam that's cheaper. The initial cost of getting the PC is a little bit like steep upfront, but
Yeah.
you build it over time and it like ends up being similarly priced and you save on the subscription. So I'm not regretting it. I enjoy it.
Nice. I do have to say, Steam games also do just have lower prices, even for brand new games.
Yeah,
Um, I'm not sure why,
that's
but
true. But what's really nice about it is that it's not just Steam though. Like you have like the option of choosing your different like game store. You're not
yeah, yeah,
tied down to just the PlayStation or just the Microsoft or
that is
just
very
Steam.
true.
There's Epic, Uplay. So if you want to buy a game, it's on different. Sometimes it's on special, and you get it cheaper on Epic or you get it cheaper on Uplay, and it's like sick. You score.
Yeah,
So that's quite nice.
that's very true. I didn't quite think about that. The next question, if you were to come back to consoles, if you were to come across 12,000 rand
Mm.
somewhere somehow,
Yeah,
and you had to choose
okay.
between the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5, which one would you pick?
No, you gotta go to the PlayStation. Eh? You gotta go with the PlayStation.
Does that have to do with the
And so
controller? Was that
it's
more?
got to do with the controller. It's got to do with the controller, and it's got to do with the fact that even though I have like if I even if I didn't have a PC, right? If I didn't have a PC and it was like either Xbox or PS4, PS5, then like what am I going with? The exclusives are like they just make it. I know Bethesda is now with Microsoft, but I've never even played Skyrim. I don't hate me.
Nah, nah,
But
don't worry.
I've
I've
never
never.
played it. I don't care. I don't care about Bethesda games. I don't like Fallout. Don't hate me. Yo, I don't hate me. I
All
don't
our
care about
commenters,
Bethesda,
all
so I'm going
20
with Sony.
subscribers are going to comment right now out
Yeah,
of
fuck.
anger. And
Bring James back.
sorry, you're
Bring James back.
19 because you're one of them, probably. And I'm one of them as well, so
Bring
18. So it's all good. Don't worry. 18 haters.
everyone.
That's
All
it.
18 of them are hating. Bring James back. This guy. He
This
doesn't even
guy.
play Skyrim.
Nah, it's,
Oh no,
but yeah,
yeah. So it goes like SpiderMan. Like they're just killing it with exclusive. I know it's a bit more expensive than Xbox, and yeah, I don't know. I just all my friends are there. Like I went from PlayStation to PC, so I'm gonna go back to PlayStation if I had to.
that is the right answer, by the way. Just so you know,
Yeah,
this
agree.
podcast is very biased towards
I
PlayStation.
mean, there's a reason why
A
Talk Nerdy
reason
with me is branding is all blue.
I know
It's not.
blue and white and a
Oh
bit of black. I mean, that's if you don't get the hint, then I mean, Microsoft send me an Xbox. Change my mind if you feel
yeah,
offended. And the
yeah.
last question before we move on to the main topic of the show for you, Chris, is what game are you currently most hyped for that is not out yet?
We got to go with Cyberpunk, obviously, Witcher 3 being the best game of all time currently. I'm hoping that Cyberpunk takes its place. I don't want to be let down,
Well, I'm
but I
sure.
know that, it's not good to come in with a big expectations. Like, I didn't have big expectations for Witcher. It was like, okay, cool, first game on PS4, and it blew me away. Now I'm like, have big hype for Cyberpunk. I don't know if it'll live up to the hype, but maybe it'll be a good game either. Who knows? Let's hope
Oh
for it.
yeah, I don't have any doubt that it won't be a good game. As for whether it's better than The Witcher 3, I think that's going to be its biggest challenge. living up to
Yeah,
the
yeah.
fans' hype and just what they expect, the expectations. But yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot of expectations when you make like game of the year, like can you like is it going to be a game of the year game? Like that's if it's not game of the year game, then it's like what happened? That everyone's gonna be
exactly.
like, what happened, CDPR,
Oh,
So
COVID. It's all on COVID if it's not good,
yeah, just blame it on COVID, blame it on COVID.
Nice. Awesome. Well, we're going to get straight into the main topic of the show. And Chris, I'm just going to throw this straight over to you. What is the question that you wrote in with? Because it is such a cracker of a question.
Okay. So the other day, I was a little bit of backstory. I was chatting to another friend, mutual friend of ours, and we like hypothetically just speculated on the idea of Apple and Sony forming like a partnership, either the one acquiring the other through just like buying the majority shares, or like a mutually agreed partnership. But the idea of them forming a collaboration and working together on something, anything, who knows? So that's kind of like the idea. And for me, there's so many different possibilities that we can get into. There's so many. We wouldn't even be able to cover all of them on the show, I think. Like
Especially when I'm
with
trying to make shows shorter. I mean,
yeah,
our first few episodes like hours. There, at
exactly.
least you could probably delve right into the little nitty gritty stuff. But we'll
Yeah.
probably just scratch the surface.
Yeah, but I mean, I've got like thought about it a long time. I'm really interested to hear what you think about it, Nick. Like, what do you think would happen from Apple or for Sony if, like, you know, either I think it would probably be more likely that Apple buys Sony. I think if you do a quick Google, Apple will have more money, and I think it's it's more of a likely. But I suppose it depends how badly maybe Disney wants Spider-Man, because that's what Sony have. They have Spider-Man in their back pocket, and that's like
So
billions of dollars of you know
before I start, just one thing. If I might be incorrect, but Sony have the film rights to Spider-Man, not the game
the
rights.
film. Yeah,
Yeah,
the film. They have the film rights to Spider-Man, but I
yeah.
mean they make Spider-Man the game as
But
well,
that was because
so they
Disney
do.
Disney came to them and they were like, "Yeah,
There's
free pass, pick any Marvel character." They happened to pick the best one, and then
uh,
Spider Man was born. But anyway, I know what you're
really
saying there.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay, okay.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
fair enough.
the what I'm so interested for in this conversation is you are a PC guy who has an Android phone.
Yeah,
I am a PlayStation
yes.
guy who has a iPhone.
There's an iPhone.
So we got these
Yes.
two totally different angles coming in, and I don't know how much you use the kind of partnership between Microsoft and PC and Xbox, like how much of the way those all interact together. But
Mm-hmm.
to start us off, if I go first, so just what I think the Apple and the Sony partnership would look like. First of all, I think I definitely agree with you. Apple will have to buy Sony. They're the bigger company.
Yeah.
They have they just got more money, and
Yeah. Exactly.
so I would see it if it did happen as something where Apple would be acquiring Sony and maybe making Sony kind of a games division, but not like a little games division,
Mm.
like another huge branch of Apple. Like, now you've got the hardware, the iPhones, the iPads, the laptops, then you've got the software side, and now you've got the games. And Apple last year brought out Apple Arcade,
Yeah.
which is a subscription service for games on your phone, and you can play on iPad and laptops. My
Exactly. Yeah.
my idea when you ask this question of what will this look like is, first of all, Apple and Sony making a streaming service. You got to match xCloud. Xbox are now giving, or Microsoft are
100%. Yeah.
now letting their players play their Xbox games wherever they want. So if for you, for instance, say you bought Halo Infinite when it came out, you'd be able to play it on your PC. If you were to buy an Xbox, whether that's an Xbox One X or an Xbox Series X, you'd be able to play it there. And you'd be able to play it on your phone with xCloud. There's a little bit of drama with Apple and Microsoft where the xCloud will be coming to iPhones anytime soon. So that's just another reason that partnership works so well for them. So I would say like Sony and Apple coming together, put something on my phone that lets me stream my PS4 games to my phone well. There is a app currently, I can't even remember, I think it's just called Remote Play. It lets you see your PlayStation 4 screen and play, but obviously it's
Yeah.
very
I've seen that.
laggy. I
Yeah.
wouldn't call that streaming like
Yeah.
xCloud is. So that would be my first
Yeah.
point
I
is,
used to have a Sony phone, and when I had my PS4, so there was like a
oh,
feature where you could like play with a controller. It wasn't like 30 FPS and my internet was really slow, so it didn't work properly. But like I used to be like have that PlayStation envision that streaming experience, but I never got it.
Yeah. But yeah, so that would be my first thing. It's just you'd need a huge gaming division. You'd need to first of all
Yeah,
give Sony the give them the space to create their own streaming service. Give them the money to
yeah,
acquire a few more studios, the way that Microsoft have now acquired Bethesda. I think Sony have an incredible first party lineup of studios, but I think they need something else now that Bethesda's jumped on
yeah.
with Xbox.
They need something. I mean, I think, but also to label Sony is just like the games division. Like there's so much more that I think they just let Sony continue
That is
production.
true.
I think they probably, because I mean there's like their whole like motion picture side, right? Because Apple
Yes.
would then own the SpiderMan movie franchise as well. Apple would
Yes.
be own that effectively, but they'd probably just let Sony continue. Maybe they'd be working with Disney now, though. Apple would be dealing with Disney instead of Sony. So Apple would have a lot more leverage against Disney when it comes to negotiating for things because there would be a much bigger company. So
Yeah.
it would be interesting to see how that like it impacted the film industry, but that's another discussion. I
Yeah.
think that Sony make really good digital cameras as well, so that technology could be really good for Apple to be able to utilize. Their phones, their cell phones, Sony make cell phones, they make the Xperia, it's a really good phone. No one uses it. No one
But
buys the
if you
Sony
incorporate
phone.
that with the iPhone, I mean, it can only
Yeah, I
improve it.
mean, I don't know what they could do because like the current Sony phones that they're making, they run Android, but they have like such low market share, like extremely low. They market their phones terribly. It's not a good like they're not selling their phones.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that they just drop the phone lineup, or maybe they'd make like a budget version of Apple's phones that are like Sony, but they run iOS, and they could do weird things. Maybe they could do that. I doubt it though. They'd probably just stick to iPhones, but then use like Sony technology and stuff in.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think the main thing, like you said, is the streaming, that streaming service. Like the way that you can stream games on Xbox, and they have the Game Pass and everything. To be able to have that option on your phone, like they have a cloud streaming service that you're running like Apple silicone chips on your iPhone, and you're running like smooth, buttery smooth streaming, or even playing maybe who knows what certain games on your iPhone, like that's like next level gaming experience. And I can't imagine that it would be anything less than like stellar from Apple. If it's like Apple, it's done like well, or it's not, you're not getting it. Like
Yeah.
it's either done like properly or you don't get see it at all. So they don't give you like a weird broken in display fingerprint scanner. Like they give you like Face ID, it works 100%. That's like, they do it well.
Yeah.
So I can imagine it being like a good partnership or when it comes to that streaming service.
The one thing I just want to go back on and what I said of saying making Sony a gaming division, after immediately or after you said your first thing of that they wouldn't that Sony do more than just
Yeah,
make games. I realized like I was thinking of just the
yeah,
games division. I was thinking of so I think it's called just
yeah.
Sony Entertainment. So I would say put Sony Entertainment in games.
Okay,
Definitely use Sony for the other things that they're good at, the cameras. I mean, I'm pretty sure they do like
of
speakers and
course,
headphones
yeah.
as well, phones as well.
It
They
would
can
be,
come on board.
yeah. The main question I asked is, would they change the branding from Sony to Apple? Like, or would they like create Apple versions of Sony products? Would they integrate like the iOS technology? Because you can get iOS like in your car now, like it runs your phone, connects to your car, it runs like that. Now, does your digital camera run iOS that connects to your phone? You get your phone pictures on your digital camera, if you have run iPhone, it
Yeah,
transfers like seamlessly. Like does that all now work together? If that's interesting to see if that would happen, because that's a big, like the compatibility, even just having the iPhone and having it connect to your PlayStation, and it being able to swap or control your PlayStation as a media station from your phone, your iPhone, would be an awesome, integration. So
yeah.
that's the main thing that would happen, that integration between Sony products and the Apple products.
Yeah, I also think Sony's too big a name to evaporate if they were acquired, for
Mm,
instance. I don't think you can buy them, take all their products, strip them down, and throw away the name, just because it's the Sony PlayStation. And I don't in this in
exactly.
this hypothetical world where Apple buys Sony, I don't think they're buying them
Yeah.
to make them stop making the PlayStation. But I do
The
see the
Apple
Apple logo.
PlayStation.
I do see the
Yeah.
Apple logo going on it, and maybe some branch of Apple,
Mm,
like call it Apple Sony. I don't know what it is. But
yeah,
it's so interesting to think about. And I mean, obviously, this is so far fetched, but we live in the world where Bethesda was just bought by Microsoft. Anything can happen.
Microsoft, yeah.
So,
You know, Marvel was bought by
I
Disney.
mean,
You know,
10
they
years
made the
ago,
biggest movies. Fox was bought by Disney. That's
exactly.
crazy, you know.
Star Wars bought by Disney. Everything was bought by Disney.
Yeah.
Doesn't he have a streaming
So
service? I mean,
imagine.
yo, it's crazy. But yo, I really think it's such an interesting point to make. And I want to bring it more back just to the video games because the hardware side is a whole nother discussion that we could get into.
Mm,
And I just want to put out there now, as a gamer, what will the partnership, a hypothetical partnership between Apple and Sony have to offer compared to how Microsoft has so closely entwined PC, Xbox together? What would make what would be the better of the two? Like what would be the differences, and what
yeah.
would make you
If
choose
you're
one
if
over the
you're like
other?
a if you're like a consumer and you're like thinking, what like ecosystem am I going into? Am I like
Yeah,
going into Microsoft, Xbox? Am I going into Sony, Apple? That's interesting. I think obviously when you're a gamer, you get people that are very into, like the graphics or whatever. They're looking to the graphic. And there's people that are like just into the story, there's people that are into the compatibility or playing with their friends and they don't actually care about, they just want to play with people. So it's different. It would depend on what people wanted. But
yeah,
as a gamer myself, personally, it would be interesting because the games that Sony offer are like very, very, very like enticing, like extremely enticing. Like as a PC player, I sit here and I'm like, oh, Horizon Zero Dawn just came to PC, and I like play it. It's like, and the port isn't that great. If I played it on PlayStation, it would probably run way better. Like, oh, I wish like I could play that. I wish I could play Spider-Man. I wish I could play. I don't know if Harry Potter is going to be exclusive. Is that an exclusive on
oh
PlayStation?
geez,
The new Harry Potter
I
game?
don't think so, but
I'm not
I'm
sure.
not
It came
sure.
on with a PlayStation logo in the beginning. It
It
was a
did.
PlayStation
I can give it a
logo,
quick
so I don't
Google.
know. Could be like a timed exclusive or something. Who knows? Probably.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a time exclusive.
But
Harry
yeah,
Potter, but yeah, you can carry on. I'm just going to quickly research this.
for me, like to be able to have that, if I could afford to like buy an iPhone and a PlayStation or a Mac computer that could run PlayStation games, hypothetically, if Apple made gaming Macs that ran PlayStation games, I would definitely be interested if I had the money to go into that ecosystem of
Yeah,
playing Spider-Man on my laptop,
yeah,
like
yeah.
taking it with me, playing it
So
on my laptop. That's my Mac.
So, from the point of view of an Apple, a person using Apple, not as a PlayStation, like what this is, I'm talking now. What will the Apple user gain? I think that Apple would have to double down on a streaming service. If you look at Apple laptops and even Apple computers, they're not built to game. You can game on them, but no
Mm,
one chooses Apple to game on. Windows is for gaming
oh,
on.
that's true.
And I don't think
Yeah.
Apple are then going to go change their whole architecture and change everything from the ground level again just so that people can
Mm,
play games. Whereas
mm,
they could rather maybe copy what Google Stadia is, better though, and
yeah.
make your PlayStation the hardware that runs games, and everywhere else just streaming those games to whatever that is, whether that's to
Yeah.
your Apple device, whether that's to an Apple TV, whether that's to your iPhone. That way, you wouldn't have to
Mm,
change the physical hardware inside the device,
yeah.
but you're still getting these PlayStation games all over. And I think, as a iPhone user like myself, I would love that. I'd love to be able to play my games while I was in the car if there was good enough signal in South Africa. I mean, I don't know. I'd have
Yeah.
to try it out
I
and
mean,
see.
you get your new iPhone 12 5G,
Oh,
and then you
5G.
stream
With
You
5G.
stream it onto your iPhone.
I
Well, you bring your
know.
PlayStation 5 controller with you. Your PS4, your PS5 launches at home over your fiber, your 100 gigabit fiber line. This is hypothetically in the future,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then it
Next
streams
week.
to your 5G iPhone, and then you just play with your iPhone
do
with your controller.
do we have 5G in South Africa?
I don't think we have um accessible 5G when it comes to just like commercial use. I think there might be like a couple towers that are there for like,
For big companies.
big companies or whatever, maybe like a research or
Sure.
something, I don't know.
I
For
mean,
weather, maybe I think they use 5G. That's the thing, the main thing with 5G. The concern is that they use the same bandwidth for weather predictions. So that's like
it's
the main
dodgy.
thing. So I think, I don't
So,
know.
um, so when 5G arrives in South Africa, you're saying then Apple will acquire Sony. Can you confirm?
Oh,
Okay.
confirm when Apple drops in South Africa, specifically South Africa,
It's they
not
waiting.
like
They're
any
waiting.
other countries,
Yeah, they
none
don't.
of those countries, specifically
They don't
this
want to put it
country.
out when 80% of the market for
Yeah,
streaming is in South Africa.
because one of those 18 viewers, Nick, is the head of Apple.
I'm sure. No,
He's watching it and
it
he
definitely
knows
is.
the podcast is
It
always
is.
correct. He watches, he says, that's such a good idea, but we have to wait to make the prediction come true. So now it will.
Yeah, I have had to humble myself and not look at who my subscribers are because I just see these huge
Yeah.
names there. I've never seen 18 big names in one place, you know? Like
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure The
Yeah.
Rock is subscribed. I don't know why. I mean,
Bill
thanks, but
Gates,
yeah,
The
Bill
Rock,
Gates is just chilling
Justin
there.
Bieber, Steve Wozniak. That's the guy's name,
Exactly.
right?
That was the guy who started Apple. I don't think is he alive? No, okay, I think he's
Oh,
alive.
yeah.
Steve
I
Jobs
don't
isn't,
know.
but yeah, deep.
Yeah, no.
We'll get there one
Yeah,
day.
all
We'll
of
get
them,
them all to subscribe one day when they
head
all
of
feature on the
Sony.
podcast. Head of Sony, what's his name at the
Oh,
moment? Oh my word, it's slipping me. I feel so bad. It's the guy who was the head of Guerrilla Games. This is gonna hurt me now. Anyway, I'll carry on talking, but yeah. Next little thing to we're gonna have to just press on a little bit just with regards to time, but
Kenshiro Yoshida.
okay, he's head of
That's it.
Sony Japan, I think, and then the head of Sony
Okay.
worldwide is names escape me. I'll have to remember. It's the guy
Okay,
who
we'll
was
figure
the
it out.
head of Guerrilla Games. But anyway,
Okay.
last point I want to touch on then is um, you being on the Android and PC in those ecosystems. What would Apple and Sony partnership need to do to make you sell your Android and move from PC to Mac and maybe buy a PlayStation? What is Xbox not doing right now that would
Okay.
make you move? Is it just the first party lineup?
Well, for me, right? For me, like I enjoy the customization from a phone perspective, right? From a phone, just purely a phone perspective. I used to have an iPhone. Now I'm on a Samsung, which is like partnered with Microsoft. There's like deals going on there, and like I enjoy like the customization that I can do on my phone. Like I can change the way it looks. I can access the files easily. I can, you know, I can put the icons at the bottom of the screen so I can reach them with my with one hand. I don't have to like use my other hand to hit the top of the screen. It's just like convenient, like little things like that. But now I think Apple are changing. Like you could do there's widgets now there, so like that's already something that's different. I think the price is the main thing. The price is it's really expensive, especially in South Africa. Like
Yes.
if you look at the American prices and you see like 599 and you compare it to like a Samsung device that's also 599, those same two devices are not the same price here in South Africa. The Apple device is always more expensive. So it's like I don't feel like paying that extra tax just for like to own the device. If they got rid of that in South Africa, I'd be a lot more like wanting to compete, like buy products that are competing on the same level. Like my decision would be a lot easier. So
Yeah.
that's another thing, and then the obviously the streaming service and the compatibility between the iPhone and the PlayStation itself. You know, like if I bought a Mac or the Mac itself, or the Mac and the PlayStation, whatever,
Yeah.
if it worked seamlessly, it worked well. Is it affordable? I could just move all my documents across, no problem. I would take the time to do that. I would do that. Like, that's the main thing. If it works seamlessly, hopefully there would be other. If I would be very happy if if they allowed like Epic Games Store, or they like partnered with another game, like a streaming or like a game store. Like it doesn't have to be Steam. It doesn't have to be anything, but like any other couple, one or two, just to add variety. That would
Yeah.
be another factor in
Yeah.
the game store. Just there's some competition with the game market. That would be cool too.
I mean,
Those are the things.
that is a big discussion even that's happening right now. I don't know if you remember the
Mm,
big thing with Epic put in kind of microtransactions inside of Fortnite that dodged Apple so that Apple didn't get a cut.
yeah,
And basically what they're trying to push for, from what I understand, is they're saying at the moment, like you said, Apple are very protected on the iPhone. You can't do much about it. You
mm,
can't change things, whereas Android you can. And Android, I think you have more than one store where you can download games and just things. Apple, everything goes through the
yeah,
App Store, which is owned by Apple, so everything goes through Apple. And I think Epic Games is saying now, well, why don't you let the consumers have options, you know? Because right now, I don't do
mm,
ecos, so my terminology could be so wrong, but I think you call it a monopoly. I might be wrong there, but where there's
yeah,
only one place where you can get all these things, so they can make them whatever price they want, and they
yeah.
can take whatever cut they want. And then you're looking at PC right now, and obviously Epic stirring up the whole PC market, saying they're going to give more of the cut to developers than Steam, which is awesome because now it's making you decide where do you want to go buy these games instead
Exactly.
of like the PlayStation Store, one place to buy all your games, the Apple App Store, one place. So hopefully those two coming together. Maybe even if they did one goes through the App Store, one goes through the. I know they're owned by the same thing then, but or
Mm,
if it was a partnership, at least one can go through the PlayStation Store, one through the App Store, and then they have to compete with each other, but at the same time work together. So then that way there would kind of be
yeah.
competition in the prices. But that's something
I mean,
I'd hope for.
it's really interesting. The thing that I'm a little bit like skeptical about is like the idea with the exclusivity, right? Like it's obviously a big draw that brings in a lot of money, but it's not really consumer friendly. It's not really consumer friendly. So why, if you playing the exclusivity card when it comes to games, why pay the let you like have not have the exclusivity when it comes to the storefront, you know? Like you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't like have exclusive games on this store but then also have other stores that people can buy other games from that like I don't know, like it doesn't seem like something that's a company that would want to
Yeah,
do if it has that mentality.
yeah,
Because with Epic it's like they're saying to Apple, like why, why aren't you giving the customer options? Why aren't you giving the customer options when it comes to where they want to buy their game from? But then at the same time, Epic Games will have an exclusive game that you can only get on their store for maybe a timed event or whatever. So they also do the exclusive thing, but so you can't like it's just companies, they just like
everyone wants money.
enjoy. Everyone wants the money.
Mm.
So if you give, imagine if you gave all game platforms like game service platforms all the games. So every game company, I mean, like Epic, Steam, PlayStation, you had access to all of them. They all had the same games. Then they wouldn't just be competing on price. They'd also be competing on how good their store is. Like, does it have achievements? Does it have good friends? Does it have good networking?
Yeah,
Does it like update all the time and like cool, fill up all the space on your hard drive? Like, is it a good like store that people want to use? That's all the changes, the features that they'd have to integrate. They wouldn't be able to just buy games and get them and then like hold that over you as a consumer that you have to come play or buy stuff from the store. It'd
yeah.
be about the actual storefront itself.
That's some really good points. Unfortunately, we're running a little short on time, so we're not going to be able
I'm
to
sorry, Nick.
get
I'm
no,
ranting.
no, not at all. But we're not going to be able to get much further in the discussion. I feel like there's so much more we could dive
Yeah,
into. So
so much.
if people enjoy this, all 18 of you, hopefully more, let us
Yeah.
know if you want us to carry on this discussion. If you want to be a part of the discussion, you can write in, and if you want to add to this discussion, you're more than welcome to. But unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap up the show here. Just to my flatmate, You know who you are. Sorry I didn't get to your question. We'll get there next week. We just ran out of time, but I will be keeping that one on ice. But that wraps up episode 10 of the Talk Nerdy With Me podcast. Chris, thank you so much for being the first host other than James Creel. We will miss him.
Co-host, yes.
Oh,
We will
co-host.
definitely miss James. I'm sure he'll be on next week.
You never
But
know. You never know. I mean, is he allowed back on the show
maybe
now?
yeah.
We're going to have to
Who
see. Maybe
knows?
I'll interview him and
Find
see if
out
he's good
next
enough.
week.
Yeah.
Find out next week. Click next week's episode, and then you'll see immediately. Maybe you watch this later, and then the next week episode's already out. It'll be right there on the bar. Just click it.
Yeah, I reckon. But to all
Thanks for having me,
you,
Nick.
oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on. And to all you listeners, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please do drop a like and subscribe. And if you do feel like going and listening to us on podcast services, you're more than welcome. We're on everything except Apple Podcasts, but I will be letting you know when we get on there. I will probably only get on Apple Podcasts by the time this Apple Sony hypothetical deal happens when 5G comes to South Africa, so stay tuned for that. But other than that, that wraps up episode 10. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you guys next week.